In this session we're having a look at factors, multiples, primes and composites. Right? Factors. First up, definition of factors. We're talking about numbers that divide into another number exactly. So no remainders. So for example, if I wanted the factors of 6, I'm talking about all the numbers that divide into 6 exactly, so they will be the numbers 1, 2, 3 and 6. If I wanted, say, factors of 11, I'm talking about really just two numbers, 1 and 11. Okay? Now, one thing to note, numbers with only two factors, one in itself, are called prime numbers. Okay? So for example, if we were to list the factors of 5, there are really only two factors, 1 and 5. Therefore, 5 is a prime number. Whereas, if I were to say, look at the factors of 9, let's see, 1, 3 and 9, because there are more than two factors, 9 is not a prime number. Now we have a special name for these numbers. Okay? Numbers that aren't prime are called composite numbers. Composite numbers. Okay? So we just saw an example of one there, the number 9, which had more than two factors. So 9 is actually called a composite number. Okay? Another example, suppose we were to look at the factors of 10. Factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5 and 10. Because there are more than two factors here, we can say that 10 is a composite number. Okay. Alright. Now, just on one other note before we move on, there is only one prime even number. Let's just think about that statement for a moment. So in other words, there's only one even number that happens to be prime as well. Okay? That number is the number 2. Okay? Certainly it is an even number, and if I were to think of the factors of 2, I'm talking about 1 and 2, in other words 1 in itself. So the number 2 is both even and prime. All the other even numbers are composite numbers. Okay? Now there's another special case that I want to consider here. The number 1 is neither prime nor composite. Let's have a think about why. If we were to consider the factors of 1, well, there's only one, isn't there? 1. So in other words, it doesn't fit the definition of a prime number, because a prime number had to have two factors, and it certainly doesn't fit the definition of a composite number, because a composite number had to have more than two factors. The number 1 fits neither of those descriptions, which is why the number 1 is a special number. It does not belong to the prime nor the composite numbers. So those are a couple of special cases. There's only one term now that we are yet to look at in this session, and that is multiples. Okay. Now, when we're talking multiples, they're very much like times tables. Okay. Because basically we're talking about multiplying the number in question by the counting numbers. Okay, so let's have a look at an example. If we were to look at the multiples of 3, we're taking the number 3 and we're multiplying it by the counting numbers. So 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, 3 times 4, and so on. Okay. Note that this can be a never-ending list, unlike listing the factors of a number. When we're listing factors of a number, there is an exact list, but if we're just asked to list multiples of a certain number, it can be a never-ending list. Okay. There are ways of producing a shorter list, so sometimes we might get asked to say list the first 5 multiples of 8. Okay, so let's see, first multiple of 8, we talk about 8 times 1, and then second multiple 8 times 2, third multiple 8 times 3, and then 8 times 4, and then 8 times 5. Now these are the first 5 multiples, so I can stop there, thereby giving me an exact list. Okay, so if the question asks you for a specific number of multiples, you can just stop there. Okay. And there we have a quick review of factors, multiples, primes, and composites.